the cameras flashed, the crowd froze, and just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
He really did.
Welcome to Starscope Report. Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and, viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today's deep dive is, well, it's one for the history books.
Yeah.
We're looking back at May 4th, 2026.
Yes, exactly. So on one side of Manhattan, you have a woman wearing a dress that took, I think, 11,000 hours to build out of painted fish scale.
Literally painted fish scales.
Right. And then 50 blocks away, her partner of 3 years is sitting in light-wash jeans, screaming at a basketball referee.
That's such a wild contrast.
It is. So today, we are looking at how a single Monday night in New York completely shattered Hollywood's definition of the power couple.
So to really analyze what happened that night, we've pulled a pretty massive stack of sources. We're drawing from high fashion commentary, Vogue, Who, What, Where.
Heavy hitters.
Exactly. And we're cross-referencing that with celebrity reporting from Us Weekly, OK Magazine, Netflix Junkie. But we're also bringing in sports desk coverage, which is fun. Places like GQ, The Independent, and even the Times of India.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to explore how those two entirely different locations just perfectly illustrate the contrasting worlds of Kylie Jenner and Timothée Chalamet. We're going to unpack the extreme mechanics of haute couture, the visceral pull of diehard sports fandom, and the public's absolute rush to judge a relationship the second a red carpet expectation is broken.
Yeah, and if you want to understand why they weren't together, you first have to understand the sheer weight of what Kylie was undertaking alone on those museum steps.
Oh, for sure.
Because this wasn't just walking a carpet. The theme was fashion as art, or costume art, and she was doing performance art that required total isolation.
So picture the scene, right? We are 50 blocks north of Madison Square Garden. The Metropolitan Museum of Art is surrounded by this blinding wall of paparazzi strobes, and Kylie Jenner arrives, flying completely solo.
Which immediately had everyone talking.
Oh, the internet lost its mind. She is wearing this custom Schiaparelli haute couture gown designed by Daniel Roseberry, and the fashion press was calling it a dropped ball gown.
Which, for anyone unfamiliar with that terminology, it basically means the waistline is elongated. So it sits way lower on the hips before the fabric suddenly flares out.
Right. It completely manipulates the natural human silhouette. It's wild to look at. And Roseberry paired that elongated structure with this really rigid brown corset toile on the top half.
Yeah, and typically a toile is just the structural foundation of a garment, right?
Yeah.
It's often made of this rough, unfinished cotton that's only meant for fittings.
Exactly. You're not supposed to see it.
Right. But here, it was deliberately manipulated to serve as the outer layer. It functioned almost like a piece of customized medieval armor.
Yeah, and the painting technique on that armor is what really caught my eye in the sources. The top half utilized this sfumato effect.
Oh, like Da Vinci?
Yes. In classical painting, sfumato basically means blending colors so seamlessly they look like smoke, zero harsh lines. And Daniel Roseberry used this exact blurring technique directly on the fabric itself, so it literally melted into her actual skin tone.
It gave this startling nude illusion, right down to fake nipple details.
Yeah, the bleached brows, the retro curls, the antique silver jewelry with hand-sculpted bird heads. It was like a walking Renaissance painting crossed with a provocative modern art exhibit.
And when you look at the bottom half of the garment, you start to comprehend the mind-boggling statistics our fashion sources reported. The embroidery alone took 11,000 hours.
Wait, 11,000 hours?
11,000 hours. The voluminous ivory skirt was covered in 10,000 natural Baroque pearls, 7,000 painted pearlescent fish scales, and 2,000 satin stitching balls.
We really have to break down the reality of 11,000 hours because haute couture isn't just sewn, it's engineered.
Yeah, it's construction.
This means a dedicated team of artisans hunched over the fabric with specialized tweezers, hand painting, aligning, and individually stitching 7,000 literal fish scales into a specific geometric pattern. To me, the final result looked less like a traditional dress and more like she was encased in a massive pearl oyster that was just in the middle of shattering.
That's a great way to describe it. The rigid bodice was the shell, and the bottom was this chaotic, beautiful explosion of ocean textures. But what's fascinating here is the sheer polarization of the response.
Oh, yeah.
It tells us a lot about the intersection of art and celebrity, because the high fashion industry revered the audacity of the engineering. Like, Vogue celebrity hairstylist Iggy Rosales described the look as a living sculpture, that appeared to be literally slipping away from her body.
Oh.
From an insider perspective, it was heralded as a massive triumph of the costume art dress code.
The general public, however, was operating in a completely different universe. Like, I was reading through the social media roundups in OK Magazine, and the commentary was brutal. People relentlessly mocked the look.
Yeah, calling it ridiculous and disgusting.
Right, and claiming she was simply begging for attention. Multiple viral posts joked that she had forgotten to pull her dress up before leaving the hotel.
So we're looking at two opposing realities. The art world is praising its avant-garde brilliance, while the internet is tearing it down for being absurd. And stepping into that crossfire requires a specific kind of armor.
Absolutely.
By wearing this avant-garde fashion alone, she became the sole author of the art. Because, when you walk a red carpet as part of a high-profile couple, the media narrative immediately shifts. It becomes about the chemistry, the body language.
The shared aesthetic.
Exactly. The focus on the garment itself becomes diluted. But here, she claimed the entire spotlight for the craftsmanship.
And later in the show, we'll talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming with these relationship rumors. But first, this brings us to the visual contrast of the night. Because if Kylie was undertaking this massive, isolating artistic statement on the Upper East Side, her partner wasn't out of the country.
No, he wasn't on a remote film set either.
Right. He was 50 blocks south at Madison Square Garden.
While Kylie was fending off internet trolls in Baroque pearls, Timothée Chalamet was sitting courtside. And the GQ coverage of his outfit is a stark pivot from Schiaparelli.
A very stark pivot.
He was wearing a blue Adidas zip-up jacket, a striped long-sleeve tee, light-washed jeans, a black baseball cap pulled low, and baby blue Adidas sneakers.
It is the ultimate split-screen moment. The pinnacle of haute couture colliding with the gritty, high-stakes reality of a New York playoff game. He was watching Game 1 of the Eastern Conference semifinals between his beloved New York Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers.
And he was hardly visible, too. Like, he wasn't hiding. He posted an Instagram story right from his sideline seat showing the Knicks absolutely dominating. The scoreboard read 132-95 in the fourth quarter.
Okay, wait, let's pause on the logistics for a second, because looking at the timeline, the Met Gala red carpet started at 6 p.m. The tip-off for the basketball game wasn't until 8 p.m. In a city like New York, with the massive resources these celebrities have, could he not have just thrown on a Tom Ford tuxedo, stood on the steps for 10 minutes, snapped the mandatory couple pictures, and then taken a police escort down to the garden in time for the second quarter?
This raises an important question about how the Met Gala actually functions behind closed doors. Because it is not an event you can just dip in and out of to satisfy a PR quota.
Right, it's not a typical premiere.
Exactly. The logistics are notoriously rigid, heavily guarded, and shrouded in absolute secrecy. For a celebrity of his magnitude, arriving early and leaving early breaks the entire protocol of the evening.
Because of the interior lockdown?
Precisely. Once you're inside, the museum is tightly controlled. Just look at the precedent set by Rihanna last year. She notoriously kept the red carpet open until the literal cleaning crews were out there sweeping.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
Yeah, so by the time the basketball game would have ended, the secretive internal events and performances of the gala would be well underway. Security protocols make bouncing between the two impossible. So it was a hard choice. Couture or courtside?
And his history proves this wasn't a sudden decision to just abandon his partner. I mean, during the 2025 Met Gala, he skipped the event entirely to watch the Knicks play the Boston Celtics on an iPad at home.
Yeah, the depth of his sports fandom is actually really well documented. He previously appeared on the 7 p.m. in Brooklyn podcast with Carmelo Anthony, and he talked extensively about that 2025 playoff run.
What did he say?
He called it the most fun period of my life and told them, I had to be locked in, man, just the garden being electric. So for him, choosing the game isn't merely about loving basketball. It is a deliberate rejection of the celebrity ecosystem that demands actors constantly perform their relationships for the press.
I love that. And, the overlap between New York's biggest fashion night and New York's biggest sports night actually caused chaos for an entire tier of celebrities.
Oh, it was a mess.
Sports fandom in the city is practically a religion, so choosing between the two was a huge deal.
Spike Lee is the perfect example of this tension. I mean, he is arguably the most famous Knicks superfan on earth. Back in 2025, he made the opposite choice and attended the Met Gala instead of a crucial playoff game.
And people were mad, right?
The sports world was merciless. Jimmy Traina at Sports Illustrated wrote that Spike skipping the Knicks for the Met was his second worst move ever, right behind famously taunting Reggie Miller in the '94 playoffs.
Oh, man. The backlash from the sports community was just as intense as the fashion community's backlash toward Kylie.
Spike definitely learned his lesson, though. In 2026, he skipped the Met entirely and was sitting near Chalamet at the Garden, though he did carry a basketball-shaped bag as a small nod to the fashion world.
That's amazing. Meanwhile, you had Ben Stiller and Christine Taylor trying to thread the needle. They attended the Met Gala but embedded their Knicks fandom into their formal wear. Like, Stiller wore a bright orange tie and Taylor wore a blue dress.
It's a subtle tribute. But, you know, the internet doesn't care about the cultural weight of the Knicks or the history of scheduling conflicts.
Not at all.
The second that split screen hit social media, with Kylie isolated on the carpet and Timothee in his Adidas on the court, the narrative instantly shifted from a simple scheduling clash to a massive relationship crisis.
Oh, completely. The gossip columns went into immediate overdrive. The buzz from sources like Us Weekly was that the couple was headed for Splitsville.
Yeah, insiders began whispering that Chalamet's inner circle felt he was intellectually and culturally operating on a totally different level than a reality TV star.
They framed it as though the prestige of being an Oscar-nominated actor was being fundamentally damaged by his association with the Kardashian-Jenner brand. Like, the Met Gala absence was weaponized as the ultimate proof that their worlds were just too incompatible to survive.
And if you're loving these Hollywood twists and the drama of these red carpet choices, make sure you subscribe to Starscope Report, because we've got even crazier stories ahead.
Yes, definitely hit that subscribe button, because here's where it gets really interesting. When you actually pull up the timeline of their week and analyze the receipts, that entire breakup narrative just collapses.
It completely falls apart.
It is a totally manufactured crisis. If you look at the Sunday night before the Met Gala, they were photographed in New York City holding hands.
And the context of that Sunday date is crucial, too.
It is. They were going to a Broadway show called The Fear of 13, and the producer of that show is Kim Kardashian. So he is actively showing up and supporting her family's creative projects just 24 hours before the gala.
That's a huge detail the internet conveniently ignored.
Right. And take that a step further. The Tuesday prior to the gala, they were sitting together courtside at Madison Square Garden watching the Knicks play the Atlanta Hawks, with Kylie cheering right next to him.
We also have the Los Angeles premiere of his movie Marty Supreme just a few weeks prior. They walked the red carpet together, wearing matching custom Chrome Hearts outfits. Like, the evidence of their unity is overwhelming, but the public chose to fixate on the one night they operated independently.
It really shows how desperate the media is to project instability onto a relationship the moment they stop performing as a unit.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, what looks like a fracture on the surface is actually evidence of a deeply secure partnership. Our sources reporting to Us Weekly confirm that they are very strong and totally aligned.
Wait, I read they were talking about marriage, right?
Yes, they are reportedly having serious conversations about their future, including discussions about engagement and having kids together.
That is a massive level of commitment, especially considering Kylie already has 2 children. She has 8-year-old Stormy and 4-year-old Air.
And Chalamet has integrated himself into that dynamic. Sources note he has spent a significant amount of time bonding with the kids. He has built a genuine foundation with her family.
That's really sweet.
It is. Furthermore, he stood on stage at the 2026 Critics' Choice Awards to accept Best Actor for Marty Supreme, and he used that massive global platform to publicly thank her.
Wow.
He explicitly called her his partner of 3 years, thanked her for their foundation, and said he couldn't do the work he does without her support.
So what does this all mean? When you are listening to this, I want you to think about how we define a successful relationship, both in the public eye and in our own lives. Because Hollywood has trained us to expect high-profile couples to be glued to each other.
They really have.
We expect them to hit every single peer milestone side by side to prove they are happy. If you aren't doing the red carpet together, the immediate assumption is that you are falling apart.
It is a completely outdated metric for relationship health, a metric built for public consumption, not private stability.
Exactly. What Timothee and Kylie's choices actually show us is that true security looks incredibly different than what society demands. True security might just look like having the unshakable freedom to let your partner go off and wear 11,000 hours of engineered pearls and fish scales, braving the global flashbulbs entirely alone, while you put on a pair of Adidas sneakers and go yell at a referee for 3 hours.
They share a mutual respect for each other's individual passions. Like, she doesn't demand that he abandon his lifelong hometown fandom to act as a silent accessory on a carpet.
Right.
And he doesn't demand she tone down her highly provocative, avant-garde fashion to seamlessly fit into his prestige actor world. They allow each other to exist fully in their own separate spheres, completely confident in the shared foundation they return to.
When you step back and look at the whole picture, the 2026 Met Gala wasn't a story of a fractured couple. It was a fascinating study in contrasts. It was high fashion colliding with high-stakes basketball, but more importantly, it was the noise of public expectations crashing against the quiet reality of private security.
And that tension leads to a really profound shift in celebrity culture. For decades, the ultimate Hollywood flex was the power couple. We all remember the iconic images of the 90s and 2000s, right?
Oh, the matching denim outfits.
Exactly. Couples in perfectly coordinated outfits, dominating a red carpet, doubling their brand exposure, and feeding the media exactly the narrative they craved. But as public relations becomes increasingly manufactured, maybe the paradigm is finally broken.
I think it has.
What if the new ultimate celebrity flex isn't matching outfits at all? What if the highest status symbol in modern Hollywood is simply having the security to be entirely independent from your partner's brand?
To be so grounded that you don't even need to perform your love for the cameras. You can just let the flashbulbs erupt, let the crowd freeze, and confidently walk into the spotlight.
Or into the stadium.
Exactly, or into the stadium entirely on your own terms. You've been listening to Starscope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.
Keep questioning the narratives you see, and as always, stay curious.